Hello everyone, what is up? Welcome back to another episode of Killer Instinct, you guys. Thank you so much for joining me here today. If you're new here, hi, my name is Savannah and I'm your host of Killer Instinct. And before we get started, make sure you go ahead and hit that subscribe button. That way you never miss an episode. We post weekly here on the podcast every single Wednesday. You guys are not going to want to miss it. We also upload the video version onto YouTube on Wednesdays as well. So make sure you are subscribed. And if you're looking for more exclusive Killer Instinct content, you can always find that over on our Patreon, where we post an additional 3 episodes a month. We also end the month with an exclusive live stream as well. So all the links to that can be found in the description box below. So make sure you go check it out if you have not already. Now, with that all being said, let's talk about why we are here today. Today, we are talking about a case that I have been actively following for the past few months. I have been waiting to see what was going to happen, if there were going to be any new developments, and I decided that I do believe that now is a really important time to talk about this case. I feel like we're at a very pivotal point in this case and within this investigation. This is an active investigation, and as you can tell by the title, today we are talking about a man who is currently on the run. There is an active manhunt for him as we speak today. His name is Travis Decker, and what happened that led him to murdering his 3 young daughters. Now, I do want to make it clear that I am recording today's episode on August 28th of the year 2025. I always like to throw that out there when we're talking about more recent cases or cases that could have developments in the days or weeks to come, just so we know where we're stopping and making sure that we're all kept up to date at the same time. So I just wanted to let you know that, just in case there are some new developments that happen after the fact and after this episode is uploaded. Now, because this is an active investigation, because Travis Decker is still a wanted man as of today, I do want to give as much information I can about him and his physical description and what he was last seen wearing. Now, Travis Decker stands at approximately 5'8". He's around 190 pounds, and at the time that he went missing, he had black hair and brown eyes. At the time that this case took place, Travis's hair was a little bit longer. It was long enough to be put into a ponytail. However, authorities believe he very much could have taken the initiative to change his appearance. He was last seen wearing a tan or green shirt and dark colored shorts. Identifiable markings on Travis Decker include tattoos on his arm and ankle, and the FBI is actively taking tips regarding the whereabouts of Travis Decker and advises anyone who may come in contact with him to remain at a distance and not to approach him, as he is considered highly dangerous. So with that all being said, let's jump right on into it today and what happened that led us to May of this year, 2025. Now, Travis Decker, he was born on August 15th, 1992 in Pewaukee, Wisconsin. Travis grew up in a military family. His father was in the Special Forces, and his home life reflected one that was very disciplined and structured. Travis graduated from Pewaukee High School in 2010, and those who knew him in school described him as quiet. However, he was known to be a hard worker and someone who had a lot of drive and aspirations to follow his father's military legacy. In 2013, Travis enlisted in the U.S. Army, and it was during that time that he met a woman who would later go on to be his wife, named Whitney. Now, the two met, and according to their friends, it was very much love at first sight. They met and they never left each other's side after that. They were always together. They got married around 2015, and together they had 3 beautiful daughters. They had Peyton, who was born in 2016, Evelyn, who was born in 2017, and Olivia, who was born in 2019. Now, when the girls were born, Travis was described as an engaged and attentive father. The Deckers had really built their dream life together and now had a family, and everything seemed to be going doing very well. Travis would attend the girls' after-school activities, any extracurriculars that they had. He would always show up for them, whether that be a sports game or a dance recital. He was always there. Now, in 2021, Travis decided to make a change in his life and in his career when he decided to leave the Army and join the Washington National Guard. Now, this change would allow Travis to continue working part-time while simultaneously being able to spend more time with his family. Joining the National Guard gave Travis a little bit more flexibility than he had before. However, according to Whitney, even though this new flexibility seemed like it could be a positive, it seemed like it could be something that was beneficial for Travis and their family, Whitney says that this is when things really began to take a turn for Travis. Whitney referred to this as the bumpers of the military that kept him in line were no longer there. They were no longer present. Travis was very used to and accustomed, even as he was a child, to a very structured life, one that was very routine and scheduled. But this new change in career gave him flexibility that he was not used to. And this is when Travis's mental health was said to take a turn for the worst. And it was also trickling over into other facets of his life, including his marriage. As a result from his time in the Army, Travis was struggling with PTSD as well as borderline personality disorder. And while Whitney denied that Travis has ever been violent towards her or their children, she did mention that there would be times where Travis's behavior was concerning. Travis was not getting any sleep. He was getting little to no sleep most nights. He would get maybe 1 hour, 2 hours maybe. And then other times he would also wake Whitney up in the middle of the night by just loud, expressive screaming. And it wasn't screaming just in general, it was screaming towards her. It was screaming at her to wake up. Now, Whitney claimed that Travis was not taking medication for either of these conditions. However, he was trying to get help. He was on the road to getting help. However, that road seemed to be more challenging and more difficult than Travis and Whitney anticipated. But because Travis's mental state was not getting any better, he wasn't on those medications that could aid him and help him navigate this new chapter of life. This is when Whitney decided to file for divorce, and she did so in 2023. Now, obviously, Whitney and Travis had 3 children together, and they needed to decide what they were going to do for custody. Now, Whitney and Travis were going through the courts to come up with a custody plan for their 3 daughters, and the initial plan was that both Whitney and Travis would be able to split time with their daughters. However, Whitney was going to have the sole custody, and Travis would get to have his children on a scheduled basis. So that was really the initial plan, and things started out that way, and they seemed to be going well. However, this plan changed courses when Travis lost his housing, so the parenting plan readjusted. He was no longer allowed to have overnight visits with his daughters or have his daughters stay with him overnight because he had no stability in his housing. He was either living in his car or living in motels or hotels, and as of September 27th, 2024, the new plan was issued by the judge, and this plan stated that Whitney had primary care of the girls, while Travis would be allowed visitation every other weekend during certain allotted hours. Those allotted hours were Friday between the hours of 5 a.m. to 8 p.m., Saturday between the hours of 11 a.m. to 7 p.m., and Sunday between the hours of 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. So they were very structured, and none of these visits that Travis had permitted overnight visits, just to make that very clear. And when this custody plan was made, when this new plan was made, Travis was said to be very, very unhappy with this readjusted plan. He tried to argue, saying that he would never put his daughters in an unsafe environment and that some of their favorite memories and things to do together included overnight visits. Travis said that one of the things that he loved to do most with his daughters was go camping and do overnight little camping trips with them at the different campsites in Washington. However, the judge was not letting up on this, and Travis was not happy with this new arrangement. Now, the schedule was temporary. This was to be adjusted if and when Travis was able to get a more steady and stable home life. However, that is what it was for the time being. So now that you have a little bit of background information, let's jump to where this case begins, which is on May 30th of this year, 2025, so just several months ago. This day was a Friday, and it was the day that Travis was said to have visitation with his daughters. So that morning, 32-year-old Travis drove over to Whitney's home where his daughters were staying, and he picked up 9-year-old Peyton, 8-year-old Evelyn, and 5-year-old Olivia from Whitney's home in Wenatchee Valley. Now, Whitney claimed that when Travis arrived, the two spoke for about 15 to 20 minutes while the girls were getting their things and getting ready to get in the car. Now, when Travis left, he confirmed with Whitney that he would bring the girls back at approximately 8 p.m. as scheduled, and they all walked towards Travis's truck, got inside of it, and drove away. However, as the hours passed and 8 p.m. approached, Travis did not bring the girls back as scheduled. Now, Whitney obviously immediately began to worry. Travis had never not brought the girls back on time, not brought them back when he was supposed to, and knowing of Travis's history with his mental health struggles, the red flags were rapidly raising for Whitney. And Whitney called Travis's cell phone multiple times. However, it was going straight to voicemail, indicating that it was either off, out of battery, or out of service. Now, because Whitney was getting no response from Travis, she wasted no time in contacting the authorities at approximately 9:45 p.m. that night to report all three of her daughters and Travis missing. Now, when police arrived to speak with Whitney at her home, she explained everything that was going on. She explained the divorce, she explained the custody agreement, and she also explained the exchange of the girls earlier that morning. According to Whitney, she said that nothing seemed odd or out of the ordinary. However, one thing that stood out to her was that Travis seemed a little more quiet than usual. She was able to note that Travis didn't seem to be as talkative or as lively. He seemed a little bit more subdued. Whitney told authorities that she did not believe that Travis would take the girls on an overnight trip or a camping trip, which was something that he enjoyed doing with them, because anytime that had happened previously, it was a plan that was orchestrated and talked thoroughly through between Whitney and Travis. They would talk about it, they would plan it, Whitney would know when it was happening, and along with that, Whitney would be able to pack the girls a bag. She would pack them a little bag of their clothes or anything else that they would need for an overnight trip. But on this specific occasion, the girls only left with the clothes that they had on their back. Whitney also informed authorities that Travis did not have a stable residence at that time. He was considered homeless. He was sleeping, like I said, in either different motels or in his car or at local campgrounds. So this wasn't the case of police being able to just go to Travis's house or Whitney to just go to Travis's house to see what was going on, because no one knew where to locate him. Whitney told authorities that Travis drove a white truck. However, she was unsure of the make and model of the vehicle. Whitney also informed authorities that due to Travis's mental health, he was supposed to be seeking treatment and taking anger management classes as a part of their parenting plan. However, he had not been doing that. Now, from the police's standpoint, they knew that it was crucial to find these three girls and to find them quickly. They did believe that it was possible that the girls were in danger given Travis's history and given the fact that no one was able to locate him or their daughters. So initially, for police's search, they began searching the area. They went to local hotels, motels that Travis was known to frequent. They also reached out to park rangers to ask them to check any and all campsites. They asked to check the camping roster in the area to see if Travis had checked into any one of them. However, he did not. Now, the following day on May 31st, police had publicly announced that Peyton, Evelyn, and Olivia were missing and that they were last seen with their father, Travis Decker. Police also briefed the public on Travis Decker, and they did not initially issue an Amber Alert for any of the girls because, according to authorities, they stated that this case at that given moment in the very early stages, it did not meet the criteria of an Amber Alert because at the time they were unsure of the threat level of the girls and how much danger they were actually in. There were also still gaps in this case, but they did issue an endangered missing persons report and an endangered missing persons alert through the Washington State Patrol. And at this time, there was a large social media presence as well that was trying to locate the girls. I know particularly for me, that is how I became aware of this case. It was through social media, and that's how I've stayed up to date with it and been tracking it. I remember in the very early stages of this case, Travis Decker and these three girls' names were plastered everywhere. Everyone was trying to locate these three girls. And for the next 2 days, search parties rapidly moved throughout the area and tried to locate Peyton, Evelyn, and Olivia. But on June 2nd, 2025, the search came to an end when at approximately 3 p.m. that day, Travis's vehicle was finally located near the Rock Island campground in Chelan County. Now, Travis's 2017 white GMC Sierra truck was found unoccupied. However, about 75 yards away from it, down a small embankment, is when authorities discovered the bodies of 9-year-old Peyton, 8-year-old Evelyn, and 5-year-old Olivia. All three of the girls were discovered with plastic bags over their heads, and their wrists had been zip tied. 2 of the girls were found with 2 plastic bags over their heads, and one of them had 3 plastic bags over their heads. When an autopsy was conducted, it was revealed that all 3 of the girls died from asphyxiation. And in the area where the bodies were found, police discovered more zip ties and more plastic bags. They were sprawled out, whether that be in the car or around the truck. They were just kind of thrown sporadically in different areas. Now, police also found that on the tailgate of the truck, there had been 2 bloody handprints on the outside of it. So police did collect that blood evidence and send it off to the crime lab to obtain any DNA. And inside of the truck were items belonging to the girls, such as blankets, car seats, as well as Travis's wallet. However, Travis was nowhere to be found. Now, I do want to make it very clear, pretty much from the beginning of this case, there has been no question on whether or not Travis was responsible for his daughter's deaths and for the murders of his daughters. This has not been the case of, we can't find Travis. Did someone do something to him as well? That's never been the angle that authorities have approached this from. From the very beginning, they have been confident that whatever happened to these girls, which now we know what happened, was because of their father, Travis Decker. Now, police did take it upon themselves after discovering Travis's truck and the bodies of the girls to search the surrounding area to see if they could locate Travis. They didn't know if he had just walked off. They didn't know if he was coming back, and they wanted to be able to see if they could locate him in that surrounding area. And while they could not locate Travis, they did find an abandoned camp that appeared to have signs of recent activity. Now, this campsite was just a walk away from where Travis's truck and the girls' bodies were discovered, and the camp had a fire pit going. There was a tent, a cooler, and again, it was in very short proximity to the crime scene. And so because of that, police were confident that more than likely this was the campsite of Travis Decker. Now, police then took a look at Travis's cell phone records, and based off what they discovered, they believed that Travis drove out to this specific campsite in the Rock Island campground the day prior to retrieving his daughters. So they believe that Travis drove out there on Thursday, May 29th, and then the following day drove back to Whitney's house to retrieve his daughters and then brought the girls there afterwards. Now, with the discovery of the girls' bodies, Travis Decker was formally charged with 3 counts of first-degree murder as well as 3 counts of kidnapping. But again, there was one problem. Police could not find Travis Decker. And so because of that, the manhunt officially ensued. And like I mentioned in the beginning, there still is one currently. Police have explained that Travis is a military professional and has extensive training that could make it more complicated to locate him. Travis was very, very well versed in wilderness survival, and police believe that he would be very capable of spending days, if not weeks, in the wilderness by himself with very limited materials and very little equipment. So because of that, it really has made the search for Travis that much more difficult. Now, on June 4th of this year, there was a press conference where police spoke to the media, and through this, they tried to speak to Travis as well. They tried to level with Travis in some way through this press conference, and they said, Travis, if you're listening, this is your opportunity to turn yourself in. Do the right thing. Do what you need to do to take accountability for your actions. We're not going to rest, and we're going to make sure we find you. On June 4th, the police also began working with the FBI, the Department of Homeland Security, and the U.S. Marshal's Office to try and help locate Travis Decker. Now, on June 10th, police spent some time looking through Travis's internet searches in the days leading up to the kidnapping. And when he did this, he made several Google searches where he indicated that he may have relocated to Canada or had plans of relocating to Canada. His Google searches included how does a person move to Canada and how to relocate to Canada. So at one point or another, whether this is the path that he actually took, police are confident that this was something that he had been planning for quite some time. It was also on this day that U.S. Marshals released a $20,000 reward for any information that led to Travis Decker's arrest. 10 days later, on June 20th, was when the memorial service was held for the girls. Whitney spoke at their memorial honoring her daughters, and everyone gathered around her to support her, and she thanked everyone for the outpouring love towards her and her daughters. Now, over the weeks since this has taken place, this is August 28th when I'm recording this, we're 3 months out from when Travis was last seen, almost. And in that time, police have brought out every search effort possible to try and locate Travis. They brought out helicopters, they brought out cadaver dogs, they've launched search parties, they have followed up with every tip and lead that they have received that could point them in the direction of Travis Decker. However, nothing has surfaced. I also want to mention that authorities have stated that the tips and leads of Travis have definitely subsided a lot. There has been a lot less information, a lot less tips that have been called in by the authorities, which is why I think it's so important to continue to talk about this case, to continue to talk about Travis Decker, to continue talking about Peyton, Evelyn, and Olivia, because the less that we talk about it, you run the risk of this case falling to the sidelines. However, the Washington police and the FBI have said that they are incredibly determined and will not stop until they find Travis Decker. Now, in a late June interview, police stated that they did still believe that Travis was alive and that sooner or later he would have to surface. They claimed that the cadaver dogs are trained to look for cadavers, exactly what they're named after, and the fact that they were not able to locate Travis in that campsite or the surrounding areas told them that Travis could very well still be on the move. It was also revealed that the bloody handprints found on the back of Travis's truck came back as a match to Travis Decker. Now, what led to Travis's hands to bleed, what led to those handprints being put on his truck, that we do not know. However, what we do know is that Travis's blood was found on the back of his vehicle. Now, as of August 25th, so just last week, the FBI announced that they were going to be conducting a 2-day grid search operation through the Rock Island campground. They were going to be closing the entire campground and just searching for the purpose of finding Travis Decker. Now, the Rock Island campground is located near Leavenworth, Washington. It's situated within the Okanogan-Wenatchee National Forest, which spans over 4 million acres. 4 million acres. And the Rock Island campground only occupies a very small portion of those 4 million acres. The FBI has claimed that the campground has extremely heavy vegetation and that the evidence that they're looking for could be extremely small. So they are bringing in many resources to help aid in this search. Those resources include nearly 100 personnel from the FBI Seattle field office, special teams, the FBI headquarters staff, the U.S. Marshals Service, the Seattle Police Department, the Yakima Police Department, the U.S. Forest Service, the U.S. Army Criminal Investigation Division, and the Central Washington University Anthropology Department. They claimed in this statement that they have no evidence thus far to determine whether or not Travis Decker is alive. Police have come forward stating that if Travis is still alive, he more than likely will be getting tired at this point. His skill and his expertise can only last him for so long, and they have stated that he's got to be perfect every single day. We just have to be perfect once. So that really is where we're at with this case. And I know that that's frustrating. Trust me, I know. And I think that there are many, many theories here as to what could have happened to Travis. I do believe that if Travis took his own life directly after ending his daughter's lives, that police would have discovered his body at this point. I think that 3 months later, police very well could have found him if he had taken his own life, which leads me to believe that Travis Decker is still on the run. I've seen many people state that they believe that Travis Decker could be in Canada at this point, or at least outside of the state of Washington. Many people believe that since 3 months have passed, it has given him ample time to be able to escape the radar and move elsewhere to where he might not be as suspected or as looked for. Now, regardless of anything, as I've stated in the beginning, I think one of the most important things that we can do in this case is not only continue to follow it, continue to stay updated, but continue to make sure that we are talking about Travis Decker, not because we want to talk about Travis Decker himself, however, because it is pivotal and so important that his 3 daughters, Whitney's 3 daughters, Peyton, Evelyn, and Olivia, receive the justice that they deserve. Those 3 girls deserve justice. Those 3 girls still deserve to be here. And instead, there is a manhunt going on, and their father could be anywhere at this point. And I think that that's why it's even more important to continue talking about this case. And I'm very curious to hear what your guys' theories on this case are. I do think that because Travis's cell phone pinged in the Rock Island campground area the day prior to kidnapping the girls and murdering his daughters, that this was more than likely a planned attack. I do not believe that this was something spontaneous. I believe that this is something that Travis Decker had planned for quite some time, or at least in the days leading up to the murders. But let me know what you guys think. Where do you think Travis went? What do you think happened to him? Clearly, he has a level of expertise regarding survival and wilderness survival specifically that is exceeding the average person. So let me know what you think. Let me know what your thoughts are. And this is a case that we are definitely going to continue to follow as time passes. So with that being said, you guys, it's going to be all for me today. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Killer Instinct. Again, if you're new here, hi, my name is Savannah and I am your host of Killer Instinct. And before you leave, again, make sure you go ahead, hit that subscribe button. That way you never miss an episode. We post weekly here on the podcast every single Wednesday. You're not going to want to miss it. We also upload the video version on YouTube here as well. All links to the Patreon where you can find more exclusive episodes will be linked in the description box below. I will be back next week with a brand new case for you guys. And until then, stay safe. Bye, guys.